Theme this year, leadership, limitless leadership in the age of AI. Now, I have four limitless leaders with me today talking about the topic Built to Think, the anatomy of AI native enterprise. Now, what do we mean by an AI native enterprise? No. It's not just having AI siloed integrating into the system. It is having AI in all levels of the enterprise. To start with, it is data. It is very important to organize the data into a format wherein your AI models can be built on the data, and at the same time that data can be used to integrate and train your AI models. Secondly, AI is used to build new products and solutions, which is more customer focused, and it will help in better ROIs. Next, we should embed AI in your operations, regular operations, from hiring, supply chain, procurement, R&D. In every format, AI will help in making better decision making and having augmentation and having better ways of doing it faster. And lastly, we should have AI design different rules and roles, and most importantly, in the culture of the organization. So, having said all, it is integrating into the DNA of your enterprise. And to start with, my first question to Arun. We hear the term AI native everywhere, but what does it look like inside an enterprise?
Thanks, Manali. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to take a minute to tell about the firm I come from because that'll set the context of what our vision is. And I come from a company called TIAA, and it's mostly an acronym which many people don't know in India. It's a US-based retirement services firm. But I get the attention when I tell who our clients are. For example, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Cornell, for example, are our clients. And Albert Einstein was our client. So that's how we get our graduates to join us when we go against Googles and Amazons of the world. So we are a legacy firm. We are 107 years old, a Fortune 100 company. We specialize in retirement services, very regulatory controls. We specialize in the US markets. And we have GCC in India for technology operations and shared services. So what's our vision? Vision is to retire with dignity. So if you take because we serve the teachers and healthcare professionals, etc. And in US, as you all know, after retirement, people live for 40, 50 years. And they struggle during retirement because it's a very market-based economy. And so we have some unique products. We partner with them. So we have a good corpus outflow during the retirement so they can live with dignity. That's our core mantra, right? So whatever we do, we try to combine with the vision statement of that. Retire with dignity, retire inequality, and help those poor. Still, in the US markets, 40% of the household doesn't have enough retirement income. So that's the market that we want to attack. So said that, how AI can enable us. By the way, I just listened to the build, buy, and partner. We are a build firm. We have a very strong technology shop, of course, but we do buy and partner as needed. So with the AI, we treat AI as a transformative tool. So what is transformation? We wanted to strengthen our operations. We want to enhance our client experiences. And we don't treat this a technology challenge. It is more of it's a human transformation journey, right? So I want to borrow something what Vamsi said this morning when he said, what is the AI disruption going to do? He said, it's not replacing, it's increasing the limit of the human. So that's exactly what we're trying to do. So but we are trying to do in augmented fashion, but not replacement. So that's our clear goal, right? So I talked about the vision, how you're going to attack it. For example, I want to take one example. Google Cloud Contact Center AI is one of our partners for the last 5 years. We re-engineered the entire national contact center. Our demography is 70 years plus people mostly. So they need a human connect. So our NCC, we are given the right tools, not only for summary, the call summaries, but more the sentiment analysis, intent analysis through multi-channels. We have the multiple channels like, web, mobile, and IVR. So how we give those summaries to them, help the NCC associates to deal with our clients much better, much compassionately, with more empathy. So that's one of our things. And another important thing we want to talk is because we are a financial services firm. We have a huge privacy act. We are controlled by the regulators. So for us, the guardrails are very, very important. right? So we have a responsible AI policy which governs our entire TIAA, our associates like Nuveen, which is asset management or wealth management, etc. We also coach our people on responsible policies, trainings, and approval processes, right? And then we also have the human in loop process where we ensure that we do the right thing in terms of biases and hallucinations. So a few examples I want to call out is we have a fund reporting division where we have to file an SEC report where the 700 control points. Now it's entirely controlled by AI. We have 40% reduction in our total workforce usage, and instead, the entire compliance checks is done by the AI engines. And we have one good product that we built called Agentic SDLC, where it helps the developers to generate code in all the SDLC side, starting from requirements to the testing and implementation. And there's also financial crime compliance, where we have to check the crime compliance alerts. We have about more than 100,000 alerts in a year, but we know 97% are false positives. So how do we really, that was a huge human effort. Now we are doing everything in automated fashion, so we catch those false alerts much ahead of time. There's some of the use cases. So in a nutshell, we are aligned with the vision. We need guardrails. There's a lot of human empathy and human journey that we are focusing on our associates and the stakeholders. And we are focusing on transformation and not augmentation.
Thanks, Arun. And I think that's a very, very important point. One of is responsible AI, and we should be hearing more about that. Over to Vijayata. What's your take on an AI native enterprise?
Sure. Thanks for that, Manali. And Arun, I couldn't agree more with you. So I come from Ecolab. Ecolab is a sustainability organization. We are a 100-year-old organization, and the GCC that we have is like a startup. So AI native, you asked about what it actually looks like in an organization. Yes, there is the utopic view of what an AI native organization is and what actually it looks like. Chaos. I'll tell you about that. And with legacy systems, with data which is fragmented, with the skepticism and the fear that people have in terms of adoption of AI, the leadership buy-in, all that exists in some shape and form. And I'm not going to speak holistically for all the organizations. Everybody is in their journey, right? And ours has just started. I'll speak for Ecolab. Ours has just started. But there are things that we are doing which is, phenomenal in the sense. So we have so from sustainability perspective, we have water solutions. And I'll give you an example for you to understand what exactly we do at Ecolab. So we all use, technology, right? And then there are these data centers. There's a lot of heat that gets generated. Every keystroke is leading into heat generation, emission of, greenhouse gases, etc. But to ensure that, the heat levels are maintained, there are cooling towers. And for cooling towers, you need a lot of water. And the cooling towers operate at a certain efficiency of water usage. And if the purity of the water is not right, the parts of the cooling towers will get corroded or they'll break. And then the water usage and the wastage is too much, right? And then the heat generation is not maintained, etc., etc. So Ecolab has solutions that maintains the purity of that water at certain levels so that it is the cooling tower is using the water effectively. We have IoT devices, 3D Tresar, it's our technology, which is connected to all such cooling towers. And it is monitoring the purity level of the water at regular intervals. At every 7 seconds, there is data that is getting generated. It is being monitored centrally by our team in Pune and monitoring all of that. So there's real live data that is coming in. And if the purity level goes up and down, there, again, Ecolab builds those chemistries which get injected. So it's remote monitoring, remote injection. That's what is happening. I did talk about where we are in terms of our AI native journey, but we've also done this. So I wanted to bring the spectrum of both the sides, but it's a journey, I would say.
Absolutely. And, Akshat might be thinking, I've been solving a lot of chaos, right? So with your AI agents. Akshat, over to you. What's your take?
Yeah, so I think with Smallest, we are a year and a half old startup. So we were born in the AI first era, right? So we were not just like we were not dealing with legacy systems. We were building the AI first systems for enterprises to adapt. So what Smallest does is like we build foundational AI voice models, which can automate your contact center operations and, handle your support use cases, handle use cases like transcriptions, helping companies like them to provide the support where they need so that you can reach out to more people. So we were born in an AI first era, right? All of our systems, we always thought like, how can we do 10x of what used to happen, right? So I think that has been the strategy since then, and we are now enabling enterprises with our voice AI models to do the same. So we sit with them, we partner with them, we work very closely with them, understand their use cases, as she mentioned, right? It's a chaos, right? So we help reduce the chaos because we have been AI first. So we understand the nuances, bring it all together and help them deliver the outcomes much better, much faster, much efficient. So yeah, I think that's where we are and that's what we do.
Thank you, Akshat. And we have Niladri from Flexera. So Niladri promised to add a fun element in this. So Niladri, what's the fun in this chaos?
The first fun element is I'm looking for AI help to help you with the pressure after these three great points. I'm looking for Devin in the room. Is Devin? No, Devil. Devin, anybody knows Devin?
Yeah.
Devin's not in the room. Devin, you got to invite next time.
Yes.
The new agent that is supposed to solve everything. Great points. I couldn't agree more. I represent a company that we kind of have the responsible privilege of being in the top decile of companies. I know there's a rule of 40 discussion going on. We are a rule of 60 shop and extremely proud about the 100,000 customers we have, which is the entire estate of technology buyers and technology sellers, which puts us in a very unique position in terms of maximizing technology value, whether you're a technology buyer or a seller. But I'll just shift a bit from a perspective of a couple of things I want to share with you, a couple of stories, which I think for all the good stuff that's happening, the data shows that we talk about AI first, but even from cloud first point of view, today's cloud spend wastage, which is a multi-billion-dollar market, has just gone up by 50 basis points because of the AI wastage that's on top of it. So there's something which has to be looked at. I'll tell you two more stories. One which I've been fortunate to advise a firm, and the other one I was part of a group discussion that we discussed is when do software normally gets shipped in a week? When does software normally get shipped, released? Which day of the week? Anybody would you tell me? Friday? So this company did a fantastic thing of, they looked at the data. They had a time to velocity acceleration program. They looked at all the data. Data shipped on Friday evening, and they were like, bingo, the engineering team, we got to beat this, right? Put all the training data, put all the LLMs, SLMs to use, everything out there, and they started releasing it on Friday morning. And they started celebrating. This is fantastic, right? After celebrations died down in a week or two, what they realized is that what they had missed out was, while they were earlier shipping stuff on Friday evening, what happened after that, the Saturday and the Sunday and the Monday, was chaos, production incidents, call engineers being called, everybody being frustrated, including the customer, and that data set was not there. What they just did in the entire process is they added a layer of chaos now on the Friday. So people who were like cribbing about, now I don't have the weekend to work, were not even now happy about the Friday. I'll give you another example. This is about a customer service chatbot, which was tested in one local market and was 80% correct. And the 80% correct customer said, wow. And 3 months there was celebration, and then they started expanding into multiple markets after that. And as they started expanding to multiple markets, very soon what happened was, and no prize for guessing, the first market was North America. They went next to Europe and APAC. And then suddenly the customer sentiment started moving into, I'm sorry, but this chatbot doesn't understand me. Why? No prize for guessing, there was no language support, and the fact of the matter is that data set was not even included out there. So the point I'm trying to make, and I was joking with her, I might just turn this topic on its head. And I know consulting companies would love to have AI native frameworks, but from my point of view, the first step is you could be AI native, but is your AI human native? Right? Because at the end of the day, the word A in AI is artificial. So artificial intelligence is to solve real problems. And from my point of view, real intelligence is not to solve real problems alone, is to ensure that you don't create one in the first place. So I think the focus should be about, and I think we're doing very well with Flexera, we are on a journey ourselves, is the AI that you're creating is a human native in the first place. I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Niladri, for scaring a bit. Now, let's solve the chaos a bit with our second question. And Vijayata, it goes to you first. Where do most companies hit friction when trying to embed AI into the core? Is it data quality, lack of ownership, or something else?
So I don't want to be a wet blanket on this very, very invigorating topic, right? It is the buzzword. And what you heard from all of us wasn't too, inspiring or motivating or, encouraging. And I'm telling you, what I'm going to talk about right now is also not, I'm just being realistic, honestly speaking, right? Data quality, lack of ownership can be those challenges that can impede the implementation of AI integration. But I think there are things beyond that also. But I'll touch upon these two aspects as well. I mean, I did talk about data in organizations is in all shape and form, fragmented, outdated, unstructured. It's available in silos. Departments will own their data, maintain their data in their own data architecture and not share it across, right? So the whole cross-pollination and usage of data for your AI models that are getting trained gets ineffective. The lack of ownership and accountability, right? Everybody wants to be an owner. Oh, I am doing, this is my data. I am implementing AI strategy. Marketing will say, supply chain will say, I'm implementing AI. So there is a lack of clarity of roles and responsibility. Who is developing the strategy? Who is implementing? Where does all these cross-functional teams come into the play? Buy-in from the leadership, right? Leadership, guilty of it. At times, they hear the buzzword and they say, let's implement AI. Now, what does AI even stand for? That awareness. And again, leadership is at a different generation altogether. People who are adopting, implementing, and living are at a different generation. So there's that understanding level at the leadership level. So if you have a lack of buy-in or the commitment from the leadership, then there are those mixed signals in terms of the priorities and the strategies that are coming in. We talked about the culture and the mindset, right? I think there is so much fear and skepticism about if AI comes, there's job displacement. Yes, it is a reality, but how much of it? Do we understand the efficacy of AI implementation and how jobs will get transformed? Previous panel did talk about that, right? Also, the separation from traditional processes. We are so comfortable in running processes in a way that it has been running. So separating that process and implementing AI on top of it is a challenge. Technical, right? Technology, legacy systems, they were never designed for AI to be implemented. And I think that's where, you come in and you solve that chaos for all of us. Scalability, right? I think AI at a small scale at times is very successful, but when scaled up, it may not work. That, may not work can be a dissuasion for rest of the organization to further invest and go on that journey. And the last bit, I think, we talked about responsible AI, ethical AI. I think it becomes so challenging for organization to navigate those regulatory requirements of how AI is being deployed can be such an exhaustive process for organizations. So I think when you talk about, what could be the challenges and frictions while we are implementing, These are all of those, and I'm not saying all of them are there, but these are some of the examples that can derail the whole integration process.
Quite a few takeaways. Amit, what has been some friction points in your transformation journey?
Akshat. Arun.
Arun, sorry.
Thanks, Manali. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, I have to start with data. 20 years ago, also I've seen seminars where people say data is something that we have to conquer, and still we are doing it. I'm sure a decade from now we may be still talking about it. So data governance is the first friction, and with respect to AI, we have partnered with AWS, Domino, and we have a footprint to have the federated data models, where the business controls the data product and business products, but the central governance come from the central data team. But still, we have I have to go to the retirement services organization, because the intent and the content that we use is highly regulated. It started with the California Consumer Privacy Act. Now every state is following it, so we're very careful about what data we use and how we use it. So that's added a extra parameter into the whole decision about the data. So obviously data governance is always a friction. There's no single source of data, and we will never conquer that, because no standardization in a large firm like us or any large firm. There's a disparate sets of data each within the teams. Of course, this is a touchy topic, but everybody knows about it. Within teams, there's not enough communication to make sure the data is standard. People reinvent the wheel within the organization. That's why the data become very chaotic at some point in time. That's the first thing. And second is the change management. Change has two parts to change. One is the ecosystem change. So, like garbage in, garbage out, right? So if ecosystem is not strong enough, you can put a lot of AI engines on top of it. You don't have the right infra to power it, or you don't have the right models to work on it. It's all going to be shambles. So the ecosystem investment is absolutely important, right? And we have a program, for example, called Tetris, which started 4 years ago, called Technology Ecosystem Transformation, which is cloud first, digital first, API driven, secured by design, and data powered, right? And it's going well, and that helps in the AI adoption as well. We started at the right time. And next is a human transformation. It's very, very important, right? Because we can say we are always good at saying, what we should do, how we should do, but we don't take time to explain the why. And so it's very important to tell the people why we are doing what we are doing, and why AI and how they should adopt. Because even if you take an organization, there are people who adopt it at different scale. Some will be immediately jumped again. They want to download a few things and start working on it. Some will say that, this is another buzzword, it will go away, let me keep doing my work. And if you take the business, they're probably caught between this. They can't say no to technology. And they have the business priorities. If I go and say, I want to clean up the tech debt, I want to improve this architecture, for them, that's their last priority. So we have to go and convince them. So it's a lot of empathy towards associates, stakeholders, business, to make sure they understand why we are doing what we are doing. That's our second friction. And the last one is, especially with youngsters, we see this, the innovation speed at which they have to go. Actually, responsible AI policy can throw a wrench into that. But that's the way it is. I give a very good example. We have pushed Amazon Q plugins to all the developers, and they're all raring to go. They're doing it at different levels for the development of code. But recently we found a problem where when certain use cases, when they want to test, they are throwing this test case into the S3 bucket. Immediately we get the DLP alerts. Okay, the cyber warning comes in that you have protected data thrown into the SLP S3 bucket. And obviously we have to stop that testing because cyber vulnerabilities are very huge. So we have to pause in those cases and say, either we clean up the data or we create a protected environment for them to test. Now that comes with a lot of time and money. So that can frustrate the youngsters, individuals who really want to make a difference. So these are the possible frictions that we face.
Good point. Innovation speed, I think, and we are all trying to catch up with that. Niladri, your take?
Yeah, again, I'm out of points. Thank you to both of you. But I'm reminded of and I wasn't intending to share this, but I'll share it. So Shah Rukh Khan was sharing this about what his father was telling him one point in time. You should do this, you should climb mountains, you should do this and all. Then he said that, Papa, मैं कमाल कर रहा हूँ. Then he said, जो लोग कुछ नहीं करते, वो कमाल करते. So, to your point on friction, I think there is a certain element of kamal processes, and people who follow those processes for years, you could call it legacy or whatever, that needs to be addressed. To me, it's an elephant in the room conversation. Ties back to the human native AI conversation as well. And from my point of view, we talk about this innovation curve, adoption curve. There's always, early adopters and laggards and all. But there's this fat middle out there. We say people who sit on the fence, and typically they are the ignored party. And as an organization, for example, we've acquired a lot of organizations. We've grown inorganically. The trick is, how do you take everybody along? I think it was talked about last time as well. Because you're going to be as strong as your weakest link, and everybody has some nerve in themselves which is special. So to me, organizations that recognizes friction early on and is able to figure out how to activate those nerves make a big difference. And I'll give you a lot of examples. The business we are in, if any company you are in, and this is a simple question, right? If you ask for a simple license, I want to do Claude, I want to do Copilot, I want to do Gemini, how many teams you think are involved before you actually get it? There's the IT team, and IT, there's an on-prem cloud, there's SRE, there's procurement, there's finance, there is HR, because the license may be acquired for a third-party vendor. And by the way, if you have good discovery, you might not even need the license, because if it's a cloud license, you could actually do a BYOL versus a pay-you-go. So many teams are involved. The biggest friction is that the world is collapsing. Today, my son, who's got no background in technology, he's an economics history student, uses Replit to build a website, which is part of a CTM venture which he's powering away while he's in his college. Things are changing. To me, the friction is about, you had reporting lines and you had these structures for a long time, and suddenly now the value is how you move horizontally. So organizations that are able to integrate top-down, bottom-up, left, right, center, left, including the voice of the customer, are the ones that get it right. And there are frameworks like OKRs and VSEMs and so many frameworks out there. But doing it meaningfully, intentionally as a flywheel, in such a way that kind of starts expanding over time, I think is the way to go. And it creates tensions. And how organizations handle tensions, how organizations handle all the kamal in the process, to me is the secret sauce.
Absolutely. And Akshat, how you have to track the friction so far?
I think for us, I come from a background of autonomous vehicles. I was building autonomous vehicles for Bosch. So I think I've seen all of the points here mentioned, from data security to handling data to being GDPR compliant. So I think I went through that journey of where all the friction points are. So while building Smallest, I think we knew where the friction points are. So I think, and one more thing we understood is that the data pipelines on top of which you build, I think makes you go much faster. What's important in for an AI native company is you have to be data native first, as you mentioned, right? So the moment you are data native, your iterations would become faster, and perfect AI needs many more iterations. So the faster you can do the iterations, the more better you can be in adopting and implementing AI and actually delivering value out of it. And to do faster iterations, your data pipelines have to be pretty sorted. There has to be no friction around how you exchange data within different functions, different company, different silos of your company, right? So I think that's the first thing we built up, having seen while I was building autonomous vehicles, we saw a scale where we had zero data coming in to 1 million images coming in from vehicles every day, and our data model getting trained every day. So having seen that journey, I think we just implemented those touch points right at the right place. And I think that has served us to deliver one of the world's fastest, best text-to-speech and voice AI models till now. So I think that's serving us well, having learned all of these friction items and then implementing ground up those things. But I think when the systems have been in place, I think it poses a challenge for us also. So when we go to customers who have had these systems in place for a long time, as I said, right, we have to sit with them, figure out how we can impart some of the knowledge we have had while building these pipelines, and that helps a lot.
Absolutely. And I think there's no right or wrong. You need to build to learn. And that's takes us to the next question, and this starts with you, Niladri. What parts of your current tech or process stack had to be completely re-architected to support AI at the center, not just the edge?
So I'll take a leaf from what you said on the data native part of it, and I think to me, organizations that are transforming versus that you're starting from scratch obviously have a different context altogether. So understanding your data becomes kind of front and center of the whole thing. And why am I saying this is, my experience, what I've seen is typically, more often than not, most companies are very good with transaction processing systems. So we've got classic OLTP. Now, the moment you get to this aspirational value of data analytics and reporting and all the stuff around it, you move into a slightly different paradigm of what we call OLAP, online analytical processing. And there are different paradigms out there, and obviously that introduces application, constructs of duplication and redundancy and whatnot. But the important part out there in this transformation, again, there's a mindset shift, because people, if you're used to a particular way of working, then your way of working needs to change if you're in an OLAP concept. And again, in the business we are in, the cost of goods sold play a big role, because if you start putting all the load into the analytical piece, and you might think you're doing very well out there, but finally when the bill comes to you as to how much you're burning, the ROI is not really worth it. So we've done a lot of deliberate work at understanding data lineage and how this flows from, because, and I know Snowflake and I think Databricks also probably have a panel, and there's an aspiration to go to a data lake. And then in data lake, there are elements of bronze, silver, gold in terms of what the tiers look like. So there are disciplines out there. But understanding how your data flows is very important. And I think we've done some good work. In fact, one of my colleagues, Bharat, I think he's out here, he's got a masterclass tomorrow. I would recommend people go and attend that, because we go deeper into that. So we worked a lot on the pipelines, because that changes the whole thing. And we worked a lot on the UX, because in AI, in the world of AI, as you're feeding a recommendation back to the customer, it's an insight. When the insight translates to an action, you go front to back. And the data you started off with may not be the data you land up with, because as the customer starts asking you questions and comes the business context, you need to start feeding in more data. And there's a front to back regression that happens that is pretty painful. So that would be one thing. The other topic I want to talk about is agentic. Hot topic, everybody. But agentic, as some of you know, agentic just raises the bar in terms of the context and the reasoning part of it. And agentic, the moment you get there, versus a classic LLM, which would do a standard retrieval, moment you get to agentic AI, an agentic AI will look through a hierarchical data source model, because you need to look at trust, explainability, credibility, and freshness. So from that point of view, you first look at regulated data, then you look at expert data, then you look at whatever is the other data that comes from marketing copies and all that. And there's a prioritization matrix that goes in, because you have to look at that, and that's a pretty deep-ended work. Now, why am I saying this is because a classical data structured based process would never work in this new context. So there are aspects that you got to tear it down completely. There are aspects you got to rewrite. But what you have to keep in mind finally, what is the customer outcome out there? Because if you have products that have got customers at risk, and you don't want to start touching the main line and obstructing the view of both your customers, current as well as future, you have to be careful about it. So it's a very deep subject, but to me, it is the one thing that I think we are doing it correct right now, because we are focusing on the data piece, the UX piece, and the governance piece around the whole thing.
Thanks, Niladri. Akshat, your take on the architecture?
I think the architecture, as you mentioned, right, the UX has to be top notch. So the more AI native the world is becoming, I think the whole goal should be how we can deliver the information to the user in a much more human native form, as you mentioned, right? So although the features are flying in every day and you can ship features much faster, it becomes a challenge on how do you provide the right value to your customer at the right touch point, right? So I think that is one point I think we are thinking about a lot, how do you bring all of these AI power to your customers at the end users, but at the right touch point so that they can leverage it properly. So a lot of times what happens with us is that we have a lot of hidden features which are very nuanced, but bringing them up on the platform and making it available to the customer exactly at the point when they need it becomes quite a challenge. So I think that is a lot of iteration that we are doing and a lot of restructuring around it. Although our pipelines, etc., as I said, right, were built AI first, but UX is something which I feel is going to be much more as important as your data and AI pipelines.
Thanks, Akshat. And I would love to hear, Vijayata and Arun as well. But the interest of time, I would want to take the last question, which is interesting, and I want to hear everyone. Starting with Akshat, if you had to start with a clean state, what would you build differently from A1 to be day one from AI native?
I think not in terms of what I would build differently, but I would just ship it faster is what, because the speed at which the world is moving, I think we can just deliver value much faster. So I would just focus on delivering it much faster in a much more cleaner, simpler fashion. That's like that the end user just understands nicely. I think that is what I would do. So I would focus a bit more on delivering
faster
much faster.
delivery.
Yeah.
Faster delivery. Arun, yeah, take.
Clean slate. I have a long answer. Of course, I would put everything, all the answers together for all the questions, because it's not one area will be we have to start with a vision, obviously, the kind of company we are. So I talked about why, and we have to expand on the why to our workforce. And when I say workforce, then naturally what follows is a human element of that, with be it the stakeholders or be it our associates, deal with empathy, take them along for a greater good. That's very important. Ecosystem change is of paramount importance. Without that, AI will not take off. So we have to invest in the ecosystem transformation. Then, of course, responsible AI we talked about. We need the right guardrails. If you do all these things, then we give a classic area of where we can start our innovation, right? So, for example, I want to call out a couple of examples. We launched something called Client Tech Labs, where with the right permissions, people can go in and do piloting, do experimentations, POCs in the lab, and a few good things that came out of it. For example, we just patented one of the ideas, which I am proud that came out of the India workforce, and which helping the US product team. One of our flagship products, by way of K-mean clustering and random forest, we identified a win-loss algorithm to point out the business that this is the cluster who can become a potential client for this new product, and it's very successfully implemented by the distribution team. That's one example. And another one is an IntelliTest framework, which is again a technology for the quality engineers. When you have UI testing, when a lot of controls controls can keep moving around every time you have to go and do the rejigging of the test scripts. So using computer vision based automatically test gets generated in the test arena. So all those work goes away, so the teams can focus on more strategic stuff. So I would say there's no one. You have to address all the things. Even one lesser will not give you the right output.
Thank you. And that's a group of things. Vijayata, over to you.
Yeah, so I think we start with basics, right? And in God we trust, but for everything else we need data. So we start with data, right? If we build that data hygiene, I think Akshat will be able to ship faster. And I think he validated my understanding. So we start with the basics. And like Arun said, it is a holistic approach any which way. So for me, it starts with data.
Absolutely. Niladri, over to you.
So yeah, I think we can hire the devil. No, the Devin, and Devin will solve all of it. But yeah, jokes apart, I think there is this pressure to do things fast can also cause a bit of this like you don't want to reinvent the wheel. And what I would strongly urge is there is a good amount of very senior market intelligence that is available today in terms of being able to figure out, because I honestly, my thing when I look at the SaaS sprawl and when I look at this, the level of cloud sprawl and AI sprawl, this is serious. We are looking at the next wave of layoffs if we're not careful about this. And from my point of view, the two things I would say, there is, I don't know how many of you are aware, but I would encourage people to look at the FinOps Foundation. It's a super cool group of very senior individuals at decision rights across the enterprise globally that are looking at how these the walls are crumbling between procurement, finance, business teams, IT, HR, and all the voices together. And how the next wave would look at how these collapsing walls will be able to better evolve in terms of decision making. And AI is a very central component in the whole thing. So one would be to look at the FinOps Foundation. And the second thing would be, I think the human part and the data part, if you get this part of it correct, and which means taking your time to be able to getting the people to be able to find ways and means to insert context into the AI and do it in a meaningful way to make your data better to be used, and look at your cost of goods sold in terms of what columns actually really matter from a presentation point of view and customer context, I think it'll go a long way. So from my point of view, if you start afresh, I would definitely don't want to reinvent the wheel. I would look at a barrage of best practices, and the way the disruption landscape is, figure out a way to take everybody along to solve the problem.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we all want to reinvent the wheel again. We have time for maybe one question from the audience. So anyone, questions to the panel? Please.
Wonderful session. Manjunath here from 3M Global Technology Center. So all of you touched up on responsible AI. I'm just curious to know, are you leveraging any tools or the frameworks from some companies that will be helpful for us?
We don't use any specific tools for responsible AI. It's like our own policy and how we implement our policy.
Perfect. One more maybe? Anyone? You want to address?
I was going to say explainability, which is making the white box of the black box, is best again exerted by the person who's using the application. So you could use a tool, you could have a look at your logs, all of it is already there, but it's best the instrumentation should be done from within. That's my personal point of view.
Thank you, Niladri.
Hi, this is Sam here. I want to ask, as enterprises adopt AI native frameworks, how do they evaluate where does AI sit? Does it sit on the top layer? Or does it become a part of the core engine workflow? How do you evaluate that?
Where does it start? Top layer or the core?
I think for us, it's part of the core native workflow. And the way I think we are seeing with the customers also, they are also evolving and seeing it as like part of the core workflow and core processes. So that adoption is happening slowly, but it's happening carefully, as we mentioned, and there's a lot of friction. There is a lot of processes, and there's a lot of refinement that needs to happen at the foundational layer. But I think today everyone is thinking of it like a foundational piece of all of their tech and processes. So I think that's where it's gonna sit.
I would say it's at the core, but we have to also understand finally if you're doing AI, you're doing with the customer's data. And the customer is going to ask you, what are you doing with my data, depending on which geography and which. So I think the overall framework needs to be very clear. The organization needs to be very clear about what it is doing with respect to audits, its contracts, liabilities, and what happens when things go wrong. Because when things go right, it's fine. When things go wrong, it can really be very tricky. So it's definitely at the core. But the way I look at the whole thing, that core is shifting towards a very peripheral level of influence and outcome in terms of how the core gets impacted going forward.
I want to add to it one quick thing is for us it's in the periphery because it has to mature. So we are moving in all fronts. We are believing in certain things that are bound to happen, but we don't have enough proof how it will evolve. So until then, considering the industry we can't put it in the core. But of course, we are encouraging people to, and who knows, 5 years down the road, we'll have a huge agent force. I think the earlier speaker and one of the other speakers telling out of 100,000, 90,000 could be agent force and 10,000 could be human force. So we may reach that point and we'll again, that time will be in the core.
My thoughts resonate with Arun. I would say it's on the edge for us as well. It depends upon the results it's going to reap for us. What Akshat is working with his customers and his organization, it's fresh and it's a journey. It's evolving. So for us, it's on the edge for now.
Thank you so much, everyone. That brings us to the end of the panel. It was lovely having you all. And the key takeaway is be AI native, but be responsible. Thank you so much.
Can we have a huge round of applause for our panel? Manali, I would also request you to please give away a token of appreciation from Zinnov to all our wonderful speakers.